Hey everyone. I really hope that this works out well because I want to be able to explain this to the best of my ability. I hope that everyone can hear me and that this is useful. Okay? So, uh, what I'm going to show everyone is what you could call, well, I have a particular thing that I call it, but people call it the circle of life. You could call it the beginning of man, um, the beginning. You can call it God's plan, right? So I'm going to break this down because I think it's really important that we all have an idea and an understanding of kind of how we got here. Please know that it's okay if you disagree with this, and please know that it's okay if you agree with it, but you have a variation of it, okay? Um, I think that the beauty and the importance lies in the conversation. And the more we try to break down how we, as in humans, got here, the more that conversation will keep flowing and hopefully we'll get to some answers. Okay? So I hope that this setup is working out really well. All right. So let's do this. Let's think about this, right? Most everyone, y'all in the frame? Most everyone agrees that there is, you could even say biblically, the beginning, right? Uh, the beginning and the beginning, if you really want to break it down, would be God. Most of us will agree that God, or the concept of a God, right? Because if you think about the most popular religions currently, um, the beginning starts with what they call God. This is the name that we've given him. Make sure I'm still in focus. And by him, I'm not saying literally male. I'm just using popular terms to avoid confusion. Okay? Personally, in my opinion, God is beyond male or female, not because he's a non-binary thing or something like that. And potentially you could look at it that way, but more so because God is. Period. Not God is a man. God is a woman. God is unisex. No, God is. Period. Okay? So, in the beginning, God. And when we think about God, we're like, we could take the Christianity pathway, or we could, go straight to ancient religion. And that's what I want us to focus on, because every current religion has come from the beginning. Every current religion has come from an ancient one religion, and then they broke off into denominations, right? So for the purpose of understanding how we all have similar stories but different denominations, we're going to follow the ancient teaching, which is universally agreed upon, that Kemet, or Egypt, is the beginning of civilization as we know it, right? Conscious human beings. So, in ancient Egypt, we have a scholar, a philosopher, a conscious being who has gone by the name, hope y'all can see this, Thoth? Or maybe I spelled that wrong. um, it may be that, maybe, yeah, no, I believe it's the first one. And Thoth this is his Egyptian name, right? How do you spell Egypt? Please don't y'all judge me. Egypt. There we go. Don't judge me. I've never been good at spelling, and that's crazy because I'm a writer. So there we go. Make sure y'all in frame. So Thoth, who is Egypt. He's an Egyptian scholar, right? He's a philosopher. Philosopher? How do you spell this? I really gotta get on my spelling game. Whatever, don't judge me for the spelling, okay? I've never been good at spelling. Who knows? Maybe I have some type of writing disability. I don't know. No, most people aren't good at spelling, so I really don't care. Anyways, he's a philosopher. Just somebody from the Egyptian time period who was well known for his deep thinking, aka philosophical thinking, almost like the beginning, the original philosopher, the original one to be like, hey, we're noticing all these things. We should ask more questions about that, okay? Now, the Egyptians, they also know Thoth. They, agreeing, as the Greek civilization came to be from Egypt, that everybody was. The Greeks, they agreed, probably because they came from, the Egyptian people. But the Greeks agreed. They were like, hey, we like this idea of Thoth. We think that is a real person. We think that that's a real belief. We think this is really something. So Thoth is Hermes. For all of you that know Greek mythology, that would be Hermes. They are the same person. In case you didn't know that, there you go. Now you know it. That is literally, Hermes is literally Thoth, okay? And the thing is that it's important for us to recognize this, because if you look at Greek mythology follows pretty much the same structure and parallel as Egyptian mythology, which would make sense because think about these ancient civilizations. They all came from the beginning. The Kemet, Egypt, same thing. They all came from the same kind of civilization. And that's a whole nother story within itself. But as far as like everything that we could talk about in relation to Kemet, right? But they all came from, they, us, we have all come from this civilization, right? And so the Greek people, an extension of these people, went into another part of the world with the same understanding that they had from the beginning. The Greek people went to Greece or wherever, right? With the same understanding from Egypt. You could look at this with every culture. It all started here, and as humans disperse and move and go across the lands, they all take with them the same original belief, the same Thoth teaching breakdown, the same Egyptian religion. It's not even just Thoth's religion. This is Egyptian religion, Egyptian mythology, the ancient original religion, right? Everybody has basically a variant of this. It's literally a variant of this story. And I'm hoping that if you're already here, you know that. So I don't have to keep explaining it. But just in case somebody doesn't understand that is a known thing. Go read. Read. And if you don't want to read, I always recommend to people, if you don't want to read, or if you're not used to reading or good at reading, that's fine. Then find someone that read, and listen to them. Like, sit down at their lecture. Academia, we call it a lecture. In religion, we call it going to church. So find somebody who read, that you trust, and listen to them until you're comfortable reading on your own, okay? But you do want to get to a place to where you can read on your own and think on your own and do these kinds of things so that you can start piecing this all together that I'm about to break down. So anyways, so the Greeks have Hermes. And you can see this in every culture. Asian culture, they all have different names for the same people. different names for the same people. And you can even say different names for the same things, not just people, things, okay? Let me make sure that's in frame. All right, cool. All right, so we're going from the beginning breakdown, and understand that you can see this in Greek mythology and every mythology that literally mythology, religion, same thing, all of it that follows suit, okay? But this is the beginning. And that is a historical thing. We all know this. So, this word God, right? The universal agreed upon word of creator. So, God. Who is God? The creator. What is the creator? The beginning. The beginning of what? Everything that I'm about to break down for you. God, the creator, is the beginning of everything that you're about to see right now. Okay? Now, when we circle back to this, so you can understand the circle of life, what I'm going to break down for you is the circle of creation. Okay? This is how we got here. So, God, aka creator, aka the beginning. The ancient religion, the Egyptian ancient religion. Thoth, in his stories, his catalog, which is universally been called the Hermetica, because the Greeks were the ones that, I guess you would say, probably put it together, made it popular. So they named it after their name, their name of Thoth, Hermes, so the Hermetica. But remember, this is the same person. Everybody knows this. It's the same person. So Thoth, in his pondering and wondering and asking questions and being just in the world, being in God's creation, being in it, you could say he did some meditation. He describes it as had a vision. He describes it as God, which is the beginning, which is creator, giving him this understanding as a vision and so on. Which, the thing is that Thoth didn't have this vision, though, until all these things I'm about to break down were already in place. So, Thoth he didn't really have a vision of these things. They were already there. You're about to say, they were already there. But Thoth more so, he was like the first one to recognize this is the order of things, the order of creation, if you will. Let me get to it. I talk a lot. So God, creator, the beginning. We're in space. And if you want to think about space, you can think of it as the galaxy, up in the air. Think of it more as nothing. Potentially nothing. Or potentially everything. Doesn't matter, it's the beginning. It is. Just is. Whatever you need it to be, it is. That is God. Because whatever it is all things, everything. God, creator, source. Think of this, right? Why do some people call it source? Because, again, the beginning, creator, God. So source, the source as in the thing that created it all, right? The thing that created it all. Make sure I'm in focus. Source, and a very similar matter. Now, this is Thoth's breakdown before science even proved the theory of the Big Bang. Thoth Thoth thought of this, and basically through his pondering and his meditation felt like this is what makes sense, and science followed suit. Not that science was listening to him, just that he happened to be right. He got lucky. Source created the beginning, gave birth to atoms. Atom. Noun. You will also know, you should know, I'm telling you as in, ancient Egyptian, the original religion, the original thought, the original philosophy. They called God Adam, which is where Christianity gets the story of Adam and Eve. And I will break down who these people are, because when you look at the religions, again, these are denominations. So the stories are all very similar, and they all take from the main characters of the beginning, okay? And, depending on the religious leader, they honestly, they change the story as they see fit, for reasons that I think only they will ever know, okay? God, creator, created Adam. Adam is literally a thing. Atom is matter. Atom is in us right now. Ourselves. Atom is not just in ourselves. Atom exists in everything. Everything has atoms. So atom is matter. It is also the elements. Okay? And the elements are universally 4 known elements, right? Most popular, at least in the West, we say water, fire, earth, and air. In Eastern culture, I believe they switch out wood, I think, for earth, and like metal for air, I think. I don't really know how the Eastern, I just know that the Eastern switch out two of these for wood and metal. And I don't remember which one it is, but they all they all are the same thing. They all carry the same properties of the 4 elements, the atoms, the matter. Okay? When God created atoms, he created the atoms in form, and the form in which he created them were the elements. Okay? The form in which he created the atoms. God created the atoms, which was matter. He created the atoms from the elements, put it into matter. I know I keep saying this because I just really want that thought to settle. And so the atoms came to be formed. Fire is an element. What did God create? What did he mold? Right? What did he mold like clay from the elements from Adam? The sun. The sun. Okay? Adam, Jesus Christ. Recognize the similarities. But literally, this is all we're talking about. We're talking about 3D, okay? Right now, I just want everybody to know, we are talking about 3D. The third, how do you spell dimension? Hopefully, that's spelled right. Is that in frame? Yeah. The third dimension, 3D, okay? So, right. So the sun, which is basically, I mean, it's not only just fire. Really, the sun it's all of it in variation according to how God source wanted it to be. What else is the sun? The sun is energy. Energy. We all know that the sun gives us energy. It gives the plants the ability for photosynthesis. It gives us vitamin D. Right? God created the atoms. And the atoms made the sun, the energy. Think of an atom, a cell. What is a cell if it's not moving? It just is. If an atom isn't with energy, if it's not alive, it is just an element. These are the elements in life form. Sun, energy, life. By God, the beginning. Understand this, because if you don't see it as the beginning, if you try to make God 3D, you'll never understand. You'll never understand this, because God is not a person. He's not third dimensional. He's not even a he. It is the beginning, the all, source. When source made something, when source decided to be creative, elements, matter, atoms were there. Nothing, period. Think of this. The beginning is nothing. And then, atoms. Nothing. This is God. This is source. This is creator. Atoms within nothing. This is also God, source, creator. God is all of this that you're literally about to see. He's all of it. Now, when the atoms originally, what are they doing? Without energy, without life, they're doing nothing. They're just sitting there. Now understand this, some of this is coming from the perspective of earth. Some of this is coming from the perspective of the heavens. Okay? Atoms coming from the perspective of earth and the heavens. When we get into here, we're coming basically from only the perspective of earth. Because the sun is a earthly perspective. But energy is the same thing as earth. That's a heavenly, celestial, cosmic perspective. When the atoms begin to move, they have life. When the atoms begin to move, they have energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only can be changed. When the atoms begin to move, a sun was formed. A sun was formed. And so, light. Let there be life. Let there be light, said God, said creator, said source. So what do we have if we just look at it like this? Making sure I'm not going off. If we just look at it like this, what we have is chaos. This is chaos. God, the beginning, the is, source, it, gave life to atoms. The atoms were filled with the energy, life of God, God's creation. They are just doing what they're instructed to do according to source. The atoms are moving about. Understand that the sun isn't just a physical thing. The sun, and in this context, in all contexts, the sun is not only a physical thing, but for humans, for anything on planet Earth, we see the sun as a representation of energy. Because the sun is what gives us energy. But energy, technically, energy is its own thing. Energy is its own thing. But the sun is what, when we think about how a plant is given life, it's because of the sun. How humans Everything on planet Earth. How is it given life? It's because of the sun. This is our origin of energy, but it is the representation of energy. So this is all just vibrating out in space, shaking around. Energy is just moving. It's chaos. Chaos. Think about the sun. It's hot, burning. Too close to it, you'll die. We will. We will burn up. I'm not saying that it's chaotic, but what I'm saying, like not the sun, the physical sun itself. I'm not saying that it's chaotic. What I'm saying is that there's no order yet. This is God in his creation. He's creating something. And so Thoth, aka Hermes, he says that God, this is, remember, this is Thoth, the original philosopher, the original creator of religion, basically. This is Thoth, with what little understanding the Egyptians had back then. This is him explaining something that's a phenomenon to him. And so Thoth says, and in Thoth's vision, God, intuition, you should say. Thoth's vision, God/intuition was telling him. Well, actually, he didn't tell him, because Thoth is actually having a vision, so he's not talking to God yet. He's actually just meditating, and God is revealing this to Thoth. Whether or not you believe it, this is the story. But this is important because you'll see how real it is. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earths. God created atoms, heaven and earth. What it's saying is in the beginning, God created it. Not literally heaven, not literally earth. In the beginning, God created atoms. God created matter, form. God created something, elements. And the elements were chaotic, filled with energy, running around, just going crazy. And so God, this is where, you know how in Christianity they say the word of God. God spoke a word, peace, be still. Thoth was the original person that said in his vision, he heard God, or he felt God, if you think of it intuitively. God said a word. Source said a word. He said it was like screaming. He said, Thoth described the atoms, the energy, the atoms filled with energy, without order. He described it as chaotic. He described it as people screaming. He said it seemed so painful. It was like a woman giving birth. And so when God decided to give order to this, he created the moon. The moon. Now we're really getting into the perspective of Earth, from planet Earth. Because when we finish this, you'll see not everything can come from this perspective, and this is how we get into the idea of other dimensions. You'll see. The moon. Order. God said the word peace, be still. And the physical representation of peace, be still, have order, have instruction, have direction, cohesion. The physical representation, the physical manifestation of the word peace, be still was the moon. And you might wonder why the moon. Think about it. Scientifically, we all know that for planet Earth, that's what I'm saying. At this point, we've left the heavens. We've left the heavens. This is the heavens here. Energy, matter, all things. We're down. We're talking from planet Earth perspective now, which is going to be the only perspective that we as humans will fully be able to come from, because we are in the Earth. We are on planet Earth. There could be other perspectives from other planets, but that's why this is the creation of man on Earth, right? This is creation of man, and we can only say man on Earth because we don't know if man exists anywhere but Earth. So it's the creation of man. And for our story, this is how we came to be. God said, "Peace, be still." The physical manifestation of his order was the moon. Scientifically, we all know the moon controls so much of the rising of the water, the moving of the water, the element water. And when the element of water interacts with the element of earth in the instructed way, which the instruction is the moon, we all know scientifically that seasons come from this. Weather comes from the moon instructing the water element and the earth element. Really, just all these elements, but mainly, because popularity will say mainly water and earth. Do this. This is the beginning, the moon, and that's just one example. But we all know that the moon heavily affects planet Earth. Everybody knows that. And so now, where are we? We have elements. And when by the elements, everything, we all have elements. Humans are elements. Animals are elements. Plants are elements. Everything is an element. Everything is not just one element. Everything is elements. So elements that were at first theoretically running around like a chicken with its head cut off, but aka was full of energy, light from the sun. It was going crazy. Now, instruction. God said, "Peace, be still." Stop running around. Have order. Behave in an instructed manner. This is science, y'all. This is science. This is crazy because we're talking about God from religion. And it's still science. It's the same. Science is God. Come on, stop playing. But anyways. So he said, matter. Listen, this is God talking to Adam. Don't you guys love that? God talking to Adam, who's running around going crazy because he's given him life. God says to Adam, "Peace, be still." Not just Adam, everything, but Adam, "Peace, be still." And as the fairy tale like story goes of peace be still, the first fairy tale story of this is Adam in the Garden of Eden, right? Adam living amongst animals, plants, fruits, everything in order, peace, right? But something's missing, because this isn't the end of humanity. Order wasn't enough. God said, "Let there be order." So the moon created order. But that wasn't enough for God, because you could almost say that God was looking at Adam in the garden, and almost like God saw that Adam had order, but not variety. Not variety, as in basically the ecosystem was I want to say too perfect, but this all in the end is perfect according to God. But so we wouldn't even say it's perfect. God wanted variety in the order. It's almost like a general telling all of his soldiers, "Drop down and give me 50 push-ups." Or we'll say a commander, "Drop down, give me 50 push-ups," right? And so God, the general, is watching all of his soldiers, the atoms, obey his orders. And then God decides, I want variety. Stop. I don't want all of my soldiers doing 50 push-ups. Let's say I want half of y'all doing 50 push-ups, a quarter of y'all doing 50 sit-ups, and another quarter of y'all running 50 miles. Variety. And so, what is God's physical manifestation of variety? Ooh, you guys are gonna like this. The planets. The planets. We're getting into astrology now. Okay? We're getting into astrology. Thoth and everyone in ancient Egypt realized that people born under certain constellations shared either similar or dissimilar characteristics. Thoth also realized not just people, but things. Things ran by certain characteristics according to the planets. Time was told by the planets. They knew that the Nile River would rise when a certain constellation would come around. And if you think about the planets and how it affects time, it's a circle. Where can I draw this? It's a circle. They just keep going in a circle. That's what the planets do. All of them. They go in a circle. They rotate. And this is the important thing that you must understand, why the planets are separate from the moon and from the sun. I know that we know this, but this is why. Because the planets have an entirely different mission from the moon and the sun. The planets, they move in a circle. And this is how we tell time. When this constellation, quote unquote, when the Aries constellation is visible in the sky again, and say it comes back around, oh, there's the Aries constellation again, because it goes in a circle, we know a certain amount of time has passed. And the ancient Egyptians, the Kemetic people, because they had really nothing else to watch, probably, and also because their survival really depended on understanding the importance of time, they gave name to the planets, for one. Gave name. Look, think about it. Today we can't see the night sky probably as easily as they could. In ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, they didn't have pollution. A lot of purity. So when they have a night sky, I bet you they really had a night sky. The ancient Kemetic people didn't have video games to distract them. So what kind of video games did they play? What was their entertainment? If entertainment was important to them, because this was such a different life. The ancient times was so animalistic. Survival was of even more necessity, right? And so what entertained them? They learned the planets. Because every night they were able to see when the sun would go away for a little while to recharge. They would see the planets, which are always there, but you can't see them against the big old sun. So at night they see the planets and they're like, oh. Well, one, it's nighttime. The sun has came and gone 24 hours. This happens every day around the same time. That's the first beginning of time. And then the planets break down another example of time. And so God, in his physical manifestation of variety of orders, variant orders, different orders, not the same. Instruction, but instruction in categories. His physical manifestation of this was the planets. Thoth and all the other ancient people, they gave the planets names. They also referred to the planets as gods. And that's actually where we get the God idea from, because this God, original God, OG God, creator, was never called God. Creator just was, just is. Just is. The beginning, the source, just is. The gods were when the planets came. They started saying, oh, okay. And not so necessarily naming, it was somewhat of naming the planets. But really what it was a naming of gods for the circle of things that kept coming around. We're about to break this down even more, you guys. Listen. Every time the Aries constellation comes, something happens. Like, not something, but the earth responds in a certain way. The people born in that constellation behave a certain way. All with variance according to planet location, according to time. Again, this is why your date of birth, your time of birth is so important. It's so important, especially to them. This was their entertainment. But thankfully, they were so bored that they did this for us. And so we build off of this. We understand. Our understanding comes from this. What we call seasons, spring, winter, these are the names that we have currently given them. They are gods. Pray to the rain god. Pray to spring. Pray to spring. Pray to the season. Pray to the time. Pray to the location of the planets, which every so many years, every so many times, does the same thing. I think it's the planet Saturn. It takes Saturn, I think, 20 years to do a complete circle around the around the Earth. Well, from the viewpoint of the Earth, a full rotation of Saturn, I believe, is 27 maybe. I have it written down somewhere. 27 years. They noticed, out of nothing else to do, their entertainment. Potentially nothing else to do, or potentially because this is just how it was. We don't really know why. We don't know why they cared. Well, actually, we do, and that's going to be the last part. The last part is why they cared, and I will tell you what that last part is. But time is another name for the god. Time is another name for gods to them. The god of spring, the god of winter, the god of Aries. When Aries is here, and the moon was here, and it was the season of spring, and Jupiter was over here, Mars was over there. Depending on how all of this stuff looked in the sky, depending on how it lined up, however you want to do it, it would always come back around. Not at the same time, because everything circles on its own time. We know this. The moon comes around every 24 hours. Sun comes around every 24 hours. Right? Even Earth, everything spins. Everything's making a circle. If you think about this mathematically, because science is math. God, source, the beginning, is all just a bunch of science and math. It's not just a bunch of science and math. God, the beginning, is all of this with instruction. All of this with instruction. That would be the physical manifestation. Math and science would be like the physical manifestation of this. Not, And the reason why math and science is so important is because why I say it's the physical manifestation of this. Everything is the physical manifestation of God. Everything is the physical manifestation of God. But for us humans, math and science is the way that we have investigated all of this and proven all of this. Literally, this is the Big Bang. Literally, this is the Big Bang. This is God. This is God. Just is. Just everything. Everything. God is everything. He's in everything. The beginning of everything. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, basically, this is how it was lined up. What did I say this was? That's a constellation, that's a planet, that's the moon, that's the season, whatever these things are. And it's not just these, it's a whole bunch of stuff. However the planets, or even the moon and the sun, whatever time it was, they begin to notice through their years of being entertained and recording their entertainment. They notice similarities. Again, when the Jupiter constellation would come around, they noticed that, or not Jupiter, sorry, when the Capricorn constellation would come around, which it did every year. They didn't have an idea of year, they had an idea of time. They look in the sky, oh, there's Capricorn again. Hey guys, remember Capricorn? Capricorn happened not in the spring, not in the winter. I guess it did happen like in the winter. But they're like, it's Capricorn again. It's Capricorn season, and it's cold again. So they noticed that. They noticed. The weather. The weather is matching. They noticed the weather's matching the constellation, the planets. Constellation is just basically the location of the planets. Okay? So that's how they told time. This is how God gave variant orders. Understand this. The Nile River would only rise during a certain time, and that certain time had very similar planets in the same exact spot. So the way that they knew time was occurring and it wasn't just revolving on itself is because there's so many planets that all rotate on an axis of its own. Every planet takes its own time revolving. The Earth takes its own time revolving. Jupiter takes its own time revolving. So the constellations, which is the planets, and not just planets, stars, the celestial bodies. They notice that certain celestial bodies come around at a certain time, and as long as this celestial body and that celestial body are in the sky, we're gonna have winter. But we know it's not the same winter as last year because there's this other thing over here. It's not the same winter as last year because, I don't know, maybe Saturn's in a funny spot. But when that comes around again, it's winter, and again Saturn's in that funny spot, the same thing would happen. Variant orders. Things begin to have order, but different instruction. No longer was everybody doing 50 push-ups. No. Only some were doing 50 push-ups. Others were doing sit-ups. Others were running. Other soldiers were doing other things. The instruction, the order was different. Now, manifestation of these orders. Actually, I almost want to do this, but I'll leave it there just to not confuse anyone. So, the variant orders, again, gave birth to time. We know this. We already know that time, which is just the planets, just various orders. what we also know, based on the variant orders, based on the constellations, based on the things in the sky, based on the gods, the celestial beings, aka the stars, the planets. Also, another cool thing about the gods, everybody has the same gods. Just different names. Just different names. Again, you want to pray to the rain god, you pray to the rain god. That's just spring. They also noticed that when this planet, and that planet were in the sky, that constellation did a similar thing to spring. So it was still spring, but a little different. So we'll call that one. What is trying to think of, because these are actually people. Thoth was a real person, but you have to understand that in mythology, they also had gods, right? So I'm trying to think. We'll do like let me think. We'll do Aphrodite. Of course, I'm gonna think of her first, cause I'm a girl. I think that's how you spell her name. Who is Aphrodite? Ooh. Aphrodite is a god. Or a goddess. Same thing. Aphrodite's a god. So what is Aphrodite? Aphrodite is just a particular order. Aphrodite is an order. The goddess Aphrodite, we'll say this. When the goddess Aphrodite arrives, the Nile River floods. Aphrodite is the name of the order. So they pray to that order. Oh Creator, oh Source, please command, give order to that previous thing that give order to create fall. Make fall comes because we're hungry. We need food. Source, please bring that command. Please, Source, give that instruction. But this particular instruction for fall, because we're hungry, we want food. These are just the names of gods. The name of time. This is where your gods come from. That's why every mythological, okay. Well, how much time am I at? Every mythological thing has, every mythological god. I keep pointing to them because as the story goes, basically, with Thoth's philosophical meditation and deep understanding, and Thoth basically kind of being the first ones to really say, hey guys, are y'all noticing that every time the planets line up like this, it's spring? Y'all noticing every time the planets lie like this, the Nile River rises? They basically said, oh, Thoth was blessed by the gods. So when Thoth died, they said Thoth went off to go be a god. That's just how they had to see it. But he was a real person. But certain people, like Aphrodite, not real. Not real. Thoth he died in his energy, according to the Egyptians. Thoth died in his energy, joined the energy of the gods, of the planets. Thoth, when he died, his energy, because energy doesn't disappear, it only changes. When Thoth died, his energy reincarnated into a god. We don't know if that's true, but that's what the Egyptians want to believe. And we're going to let them have it, because it really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if what happened. Well, it does, but it doesn't. Doesn't matter what happened, particularly to Thoth's energy when he died. We're not that far to even know that yet. So, again, planets, time, variants, these are instructions. The constellations, not just the constellations, not just the location of planets, not just the location of stars, but all of it. All of it. And depending on where everything is in relation to everything else is time. Depending on where everything is, not just planets, but also moon, also sun, everything. Depending on where everything is, according to the instruction given by God. When God, the Creator, gave instruction, this moon, right? Moon, order, instruction, the mother of order, basically. And the moon, the moon here isn't obviously in the same cat. Like the moon, this is planet Earth related. Instruction, heavenly. God created the heavens and the earth, as above, so below. As above, instruction, so below, the moon. In the heavens, instruction, the physical manifestation, the moon. Understand this. So, where am I at time-wise? Okay. So there's, up here we can see there's already an instruction, right? But this instruction is constant. And what do we know about the planets? What do we know about this? This is constant. Because this is what gave birth to variation. This is what gave birth to variant orders. But before that, it was the same. That's why the planets, they rotate at the same speed, same time, doing the same thing. Whatever science, whatever energy, whatever God has told it to do, it always does it. All the time. And the Egyptians noticed that. They noticed these things are going in a circle. And the fixed instructions of all of this, gave birth to time. And also, you're gonna like this. This is that word everyone's been looking for. Because I'm sure up until now you've been like, okay, but how did that make man? Man was already made. Man was here. Man was Adam. Adam was chaos. Adam received order. Adam received variety of orders. Time, consciousness. Or for animals, which we all are animals basically. Instinct. Depending on what type of formation that you were instructed to take place. Depending on what type of formation you were instructed to take place, you either became a plant, a human, Homo sapien, we should say. Plant, Homo sapien, a bird. It's all just elements. It's all just elements with energy and an instruction. Variant instructions. And this is how we get consciousness. This is why, if you look into the totality of your astrology, right? Your whole birth chart, not just looking at the placement of your sun, but also the placement of your moon and the placement of Mars and Venus, all of this stuff. All of this gives you a personality. And if humans are affected by this, by time, if humans are affected by time, so are animals. That makes sense? Humans, our personalities, our consciousness. Our consciousness is our God-given orders, our very specific God-given orders. Just like animals, they get orders too. That's their instinct. This is all the same. Everything on the same line is the same. Time, consciousness, instinct, the same thing. These in line are all the same thing. This is God. Do you see this? This is God. And so, this is where it gets really interesting. And I'll do a part 2, because I feel like there's more to learn here. But, let me make sure this is in frame. Right? This is the divine order for the third dimension. Ooh. Actually, not this, because that's the beginning. That just is. So here, this particular order. Is that able to be seen? I hope so. You see that? You see that? From atom to consciousness, that is what creates a third dimension. Anything that you can physically see is 3D. It is a part of this three-dimensional world. And so where your mind is going to be blown is when you start asking the questions of, if this is the instruction to create 3D, what happens when Source made a different instruction or a different flow? Perhaps that made 4D, 5D, 7D, 10D, 11D. This is science. This is science, guys. Think about that. That's literally science. And so when people say parallel universes or people say frequencies, the third dimension is a frequency. That's all this is. That's all this is. Third dimension. It's the third dimensional frequency. When Creator gave life, when Creator created, one of those creations had this frequency. That's third dimension. And we know frequency is a real thing. So if all of this is a universally agreed upon understanding, more than likely, there's more dimensions. And without getting too far into all of it, because I kind of don't want to make a part 2. So I'm just going to put this food for thought out here, right? But we call this the beginning. Think about all the questions that can come from this. If God, Creator, Source is the beginning, when was the beginning? When was it nothing? When was it nothing or everything? When was it is? When did that start? Did it start? Did God start? Is the beginning really the beginning or just is? Just always? We don't know. That's what we want to know about God. That's what we want to know about Creator. Who are you? What is this? What is this? And because science, math, everything down here is below God, we don't know. We can't figure this out. God is a mystery. Other questions. Our science, again, only teaches the development of the three-dimensional light. Again, what about other dimensions? If you think about how people believe in the concept of soul ascension, soul is just consciousness, just instinct. Instinct. Humans, and different kind of humans, they think about different things. Literally think about it. You're acting so much like a Capricorn. You think about things in this way. Your consciousness acts like this. Your instinct is like that. That's because you're a Capricorn. You know what I mean? So, ascension, is ascension really anything spiritual? Because it's just a spirit. Or is ascension just realizing, oh, this is it. This is how I came to be. And once you realize and accept, this is how I came to be, then you can start asking these other questions. Perhaps that's just ascension. Perhaps ascension to the next dimension is death. This is a circle of life, circle of creation. Right? Oh, I should probably do a part 2. Okay, I'm gonna do a part 2.